of rosemary, the color of stone, the golden light. There is a sweet story I tell, a folk tale about a king trying to figure out just what it is that makes the meal he enjoyed at the home of a small Jewish family so delicious. Trying recipe after recipe, the family finally explains that what makes it so delicious and so different is a special spice, Shabbat. Without Shabbat, without the blessings and the family and the sacred time, it's just a dinner. I tell that story often, and each time I do, I think about Shabbat in Israel and its special spice. I think about the particular quiet that descends even in energetic Tel Aviv. I think about walking a path in the Galilee last summer with Jacob and Orly singing the songs of Shabbat and occasionally Taylor Swift as the sun was setting. I think about my many, many Shabbat walks in Jerusalem. There is, I always say, simply nothing like it. The air smells different and sounds different and even tastes different. Maybe it's the light of candles glowing on Jerusalem stone, but there is simply nothing like Shabbat in Jerusalem. Among so many heartbreaks this year, it is especially painful to hear my Israeli friends refer to October 7th as Shabbat HaArura, the cursed Shabbat, or Shabbat HaShchura, the black Shabbat. It feels like among the other enormous losses, something else, the sanctity of Shabbat and a festival morning, was taken too. Normally, on Yom Ha'atzmaut, the official ceremonies held by municipalities all over the country involve celebrities and politicians and honored citizens lighting torches in a public ceremony. This year, one of the most attended ceremonies in Israel was organized by the families of the hostages, and it began not by lighting torches, but by extinguishing them. It was powerful and it was painful, until the last featured participant, a mother whose son is still held captive. She was the only one that night who lit a torch, a clear message of that which our fourth graders just sang for us: our hope is not lost. And maybe that's why I think maybe we treasure Shabbat even more now than I did before, because we need that light of hope. It's why we come together to sing and to pray. It's why we need and braid challah together. It's why together tonight and in our homes we kindle light week after week. And each time I do, I take a quick moment to breathe in, imagining that rosemary and that stone and the golden light of Jerusalem is filling my house the way it always fills my soul. So as we prepare to welcome the Shabbat bride, I invite us to take in a breath together and maybe, just maybe, a little of that Jerusalem Shabbat.
One of my fondest memories from Israel comes from a basement beneath the sanctuary of Congregation Kol HaNeshama, located just outside the old city of Jerusalem. A community gathered monthly on Friday nights to welcome Shabbat with drums and chants and dancing. And the diminutive basement quickly transformed into a sweatbox with a steady thrum of music and playing children circulating through the air. And as I listened to the noises and as I smelled the smells, it was smelly. And as I just danced and clapped to the beat, I learned that prayer can be everything. It can be words, it can be noises, it can be sights and smells. It can be whatever moves our heart. And truly, that's what our Shema prayer is about. It's about opening ourselves up to that which can move us.
Shabbat Shalom. On this night of celebration where we express our love for Israel, I want to share with you just a few things that I love about Israel. I really don't like graffiti, but I love the fact that the most commonly used graffiti in Israel is Am Yisrael Chai. I love the time that I peered through the window of an ice cream shop, and in line was a scantily clad woman in a bikini and a man in full Hasidic garb, and nobody noticed except me. I love Machane Yehuda, the market in Jerusalem on a Friday afternoon where people are buying things for Shabbat and preparing for what they hope will be a beautiful evening. And I love reading the street names in Israel and getting a history lesson. Ben Yehuda, Ben Maimon, Bruria, Ibn Ezra Street, Rothschild Boulevard. By the way, the most common street name in Israel is Chazait, the olive. I love walking the very same steps that King David was purported to have walked. I love my first trip to Israel in the early 1980s when I was elbowed out of the line for the first bus that I was in line for. But when I was on the bus, a stranger said, "Where are you from?" I said, "California." And she said, "What are you doing for Shabbat dinner?" I love that Israel's Save a Heart organization has performed many life-saving operations on many Palestinian children at no charge. And I love that there are 2 million Palestinian Arabs living as full Israeli citizens in Israel. I still love it when the plane lands and people cheer and show gratitude. I love that Israelis are rated as the 4th happiest people on earth. Think about that and how remarkable that is. Hummus, shawarma, falafel, dates, and in recent years, some of the finest gourmet food in the world. I love going to the Kotel, the Western Wall, and I love watching parents take their children to the Kotel. I love that Israelis hate war, long for peace, and at the same time, I love the fact that they have a powerful, effective, and moral army. And I love that Israel, with all of its flaws, is overwhelmingly decent. And I love Israel for the same reason that so many of you do. It's our hope, it's our dream, it's the Jewish state, and it's ours. So tonight we celebrate Israel. I thought about it. You know, the first time I think that the Israelites or Jews celebrated as a people, I'm not sure of this, but I'm pretty sure, it was when we crossed the Red Sea. And we sang the words, "Who was like you, O God?" Those words are the Michamocha. I think that's the very first time we celebrated collectively as a people. And so it seems apt that we should do it once again. The Michamocha is on page 40.
We began our service this evening by singing 2 versions of Am Yisrael Chai, and then Rabbi Woznica spoke a little bit about that graffiti that sometimes you see in Israel, Am Yisrael Chai. But there's another version of the song. Actually, there's many, many other renditions, but probably the best-known version of that in Israel today is one that's sung by Eyal Golan, and it was originally written by Ofer Cohen. And I wanted to point out one lyric that's really powerful that was originally actually taught by Rabbi Yehoshua Weitzman. And I didn't know that until I started looking into the lyrics of the song, that there's one verse, one line that's based on this teaching from Rabbi Weitzman, who is a scholar and teacher today in Israel. And Eyal Golan sings, "Ki am hanetzach leolam lo mefached, afilu kashe lirot." It says, the eternal people, Am hanetzach, which is a name for the Jewish people because we've been around for a long time. And God willing, we're going to be around for a long time to come. But he sings, the eternal people never fears, even when it's hard to see. But the original lyric that Yehoshua Weitzman taught is that the eternal people never fears even when the path is long. Even when the path is long. And it was so beautiful and helpful actually for me this afternoon as I was getting ready for tonight's service to read that, because it helped me remember that it's not about not ever being afraid. Of course, there are going to be moments that we're going to be afraid, but we're not afraid of that long path. And the reason we're not afraid of the long path is because we have a very long past. We have this extraordinary history that can give us strength, and it can give us a sense of hope, and it can give us the resilience we need when we're in those dark moments to know that the path ahead might be very long. It might be much more longer than we anticipate and seemingly longer than we can bear. But if we look to our past, we know we can bear this, and we can walk down this long path, this hard road, even if it takes longer than we ever would have wanted. And then at the end, he sings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shomer Aleinu, Azmi Yachol Aleinu. He says we have to have faith. We have to believe that somehow God is watching over us, and therefore we can't be vanquished. And then he adds, Ki ein lanu od medina. What choice do we have? There is no other place really for us to go. And then the prayer at the very end, Ta'aseh shalom beinenu, shmor al yeladenu, ki lo avda ha'emunah. And so God, our deepest wish, make peace for us. And not just for us, but among us, because sometimes we don't always get along as well as we'd like to. And so make peace for us and among us, and guard over our children, because we will never give up our faith. I found this song time and time again over these last 8 months, going back and listening to it again. It just lifts me up, and it gives me a sense of hope. Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people lives and endures because we're not afraid of the long path. We're not afraid of the long path.